What's up, everybody? Got another video talking about the AFC divisional round in the NFL playoffs. We're getting our first look at the one seed Chiefs against the rest of the AFC that won in the wild card round. Take a look at that bracket real quick. But first, don't forget to like the channel if you're like the video if you're enjoying the channel, and subscribe to keep getting this content and the NFC games, more importantly, throughout the rest of the playoffs.
Yeah, as Woj mentioned, we'll be focusing on the AFC half of the bracket for this video. Still have the Rams playing the Vikings as we record this, but lots of chalk so far, with the exception of the Commanders winning on that doink. Jaden Daniels showing up in his first playoff debut, but on the AFC side that we're going to be looking at today, all the favorites pulled out, which really set us up for some nice matchups in the second round. But we'll jump
Yep.
into it with our first game. The four-seeded Texans going to Kansas City to play the number one Chiefs. You have the Chiefs opening as a touchdown and a half-point favorite at home. Texans beat the Chargers in that wild card round by 20 points. A real surprise for especially how the Texans finished the season. A little lackluster on offense, but their defense looked elite against the Chargers, forcing four interceptions on Herbert, and really just holding that offense to just a single touchdown. They looked great in that game, and I think really buying back some of the belief of the fans, especially heading into this one. But I don't think people should get too much into the recency bias there. I mean, we were even just down on the Texans this last week, thinking the Chargers would pull that one out. Because the Chiefs, they got that bye. I mean, we know how Andy Reid and Spagnuolo, how they use, or how they come off of bye weeks, and just how effective they can be, especially at home. They already beat the Texans by 8 early in the season, so, and that one was also at home. So really just setting the line right back um, to what we saw in that previous matchup. But I'm curious where your head's at, Woj. Do you think the Texans could keep the momentum going, or is this just still too big of a test? I guess money line and spread.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to want to be leaning towards the Texans after they had a good win, an upset win. You mentioned all the favorites, at least all the favorite seeds had won, but the Texans are actually underdogs at hosting the Chargers in the wild card here, on the road against the Chiefs. And again, I think people are going to be thinking about ways to make up excuses in their mind why maybe this is different for the Chiefs this year, at least in the first round, and why the Texans might have a chance. And they look pretty solid, especially defensively against the Chargers. Only letting up one touchdown, like you mentioned, and there was a broken play to Lad McConkey for 80 plus yards. So you take that away, that anomaly. They didn't let up any touchdowns, only let up 2 field goals. In that 6-0 start the Chargers had, and the Texans defense never looked back. But this is a Chiefs team that you mentioned took my thunder. Steve Spagnuolo in defense. They really know how to scheme defensively this late in the season against teams, especially teams that they had already played against. You're looking at a Texans team that is becoming more and more one-dimensional than they would like, with injuries to their wide receiving core, as I mentioned. Obviously going to keep getting a heavy dose of Nico Collins, getting 122 of the 280 passing yards that Stroud has. I have to imagine that I think it's Trent McDuffie, the all-pro cornerback for the Chiefs, and Steve Spagnuolo are going to be looking to shut down Nico Collins and make somebody else in this Texans receiving room make plays. Outside of that, too, like you mentioned, the Chiefs off a bye, almost impossible not to pick them to win. So clearly that's where I'm going to be lying. If you look at Andy Reid's record off weeks of extra rest and preparation, and it's really preparation that gets this team so geared up. But it's the coaching at the end of the day for the Chiefs. So Chiefs money line for me, and then I really think I'm gonna have to stick with the Chiefs spread here because of the extra week of preparation. Because I don't think that this Texans offense has enough juice against this Chiefs defense, and it's not often I'm praising the defense as the reason why I think the Chiefs are going to win and cover. But everyone wants to point at the Chiefs not putting up 30 points this year. They don't have to with how good this defense was. They were the youngest defense in the league last year, winning the Super Bowl. They built upon that this year and proved that all they have to do to win is have Mahomes play mistake-free relative football and let the defense do the rest. And I think that's what you're going to see here. I like the Chiefs money line spread. I like the Texans team total under. Stroud will throw an interception. All of these things that indicate low offensive output and a dominant defensive game for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, you took a lot of the points that I was gonna go for in this one. But I mean, we saw the last game. Like Stroud didn't have to play great against the Chargers. He
No,
was
he did not.
the game manager, threw a touchdown pick. Nothing really where he put the team on his back, and that's really been the case all season. His best few games of the year were in September. So I mean, I just don't know how the Texans win this game. Like Mahomes isn't going to throw four interceptions like Herbert did. Like you just mentioned, play mistake-free football. Like the Chiefs could really play into their kind of strategy that they've used all season. They have the better defense. They're number two overall
Yep.
defense on PFF. Houston has really good defense too, but they're number nine on PFF. So, I mean, the Chiefs are at home too. I mean, home defenses play much better at home with the crowd on their side. Stroud splits have been worse outdoors, on the road. Their pass defense has given up 50 more yards per game on the road. And they haven't beat a single team with a winning record on the road this year. So, I mean, the Texans, they really dominated, as I mentioned before, that AFC South division. I think they had a good game plan against the Chargers and a fairly even matchup, but I think the talent is too much, the bye week, and Stroud's going to have to do things that he hasn't done this season to pull this game out. So, yeah, it's too much wishful thinking. The side of the Texans. I mean, 7.5 isn't terrible, but I think they're going to win the game or yeah, pull it out on the road. I don't see that happening. So I'm with you on the Chiefs spread. The total scares me, but though this is by far the lowest total.
Mhm.
Others are all in the 50s that are out right now. I mean, we talked about how good these defenses are, but yeah, I think Stroud's going to throw at least one interception in this game. I could see the Chiefs hitting like 30 points on their own and seeing something similar to what we had with the Chargers.
Yeah, going back to something that you mentioned, just because we got some time. Um, CJ Stroud didn't have to do too much to win that game against the Chargers, and that's what happens when your defense those forces four interceptions from the opposing team quarterback. But they really relied on the run game, and maybe they weren't the most efficient against a pretty stout Chargers run defense. They ran the ball 29 times, and that's a luxury. Plus a few CJ Stroud scrambles. That's a luxury they might not be able to have in this game against the Chiefs, where especially according to the spread, they're very likely to find themselves down this game, especially down early, given how probably Vegas projects their offensive point total here. And that's going to necessitate a much different game plan than what the Texans were able to experience against the Chargers. You're probably going to see a lot of down and distances behind the sticks, a lot of situations where CJ Stroud's got to pass the ball medium to long to get those first downs and against a really good coverage unit. And if they want to run the ball as much as they can, I mentioned the Chargers have a really great run stopping unit. The Chiefs are right there behind them in terms of efficiency and PFF grade, in terms of being a top 10 run defense there. So I think it's going to be similar sledding for the Texans in the run game, but they're not going to count on the opposing team's quarterback to commit four turnovers, and they're going to have a very difficult time passing. As again, I mentioned the Chiefs are right behind the Chargers in run defense. They're right behind them in coverage grade as well. So very similar defense from a statistical perspective, although the Chiefs actually do outflank the Chargers in terms of total PFF defense. So if anything, it's going to be tougher for what this Texans offense has to go through. And again, knowing that they can't rely on winning the turnover battle necessarily this game, and we both think they're not going to, it's going to be really hard for CJ Stroud to dig this team out of a hole. And the Texans were able to win the game by CJ Stroud managing it. If they're going to have any chance against the Chiefs, CJ Stroud is going to have to play out of his mind and truly win the game for this Texans team.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. And he hasn't done it once this year. Like he hasn't had to in their wins. Um, yeah, I mean it's just I don't know how you could see that happening on the like it could happen and
But
that'd
there's
be
been nothing
awesome.
this
But
season
so
to
yeah,
say that will, to your point.
exactly. I mean it would be great if it did happen, but
It'd be fun.
uh
I'm rooting for it. I would love
yeah,
the Texans to win this game.
yeah, I don't think it's the game in this one. Yeah, I'm with you on the Chiefs. Anything else to add or
No, good to go to the next even better matchup here.
yep. Yep. So moving along to the number three Ravens. They're heading into Buffalo to play the two seeded Bills. Ravens took care of business against the Steelers, winning by 2 touchdowns, and the Bills really handled that entire Broncos game other than the first couple minutes. But the Bills get another home game in this one. The line is just about even. With the Ravens even slight favorites on the road here. Uh, so the odds makers are kind of siding with what we see on PFF. I would say that the PFF has the Ravens at number 2 and the Bills at 19, but PFF
Wow.
doesn't always nail everything as far as rankings go. But I mean, more often than not, they do have some good insight. I would say the main thing is though, like when you have a guy like Josh Allen, it's just you could like almost throw stats out the window with just how impactful he is. Like there were so many times in that Broncos game where he had to basically just leave the pocket, nobody open downfield. He stutter steps around the D end in what should have been a stack, and like just his athleticism, he's able to pick up like a first down and a negative, what should have been a negative yardage play. You probably get poorly graded there, but then Josh Allen just bails you out. Um, yeah, I mean, that's what makes this one tough for me, just as far as going too much into analytics, looking at this game.
Hmm.
Uh, like, I mean, at the same time, I mean, too, Buffalo is a good home field advantage, but I don't think the Ravens will be as affected by it with such a run heavy team with Derrick Henry, Lamar. Uh, I mean, they're run heavy. They play in a cold environment in Baltimore. So, I mean, where it will still be an advantage, I don't think as great as maybe we've seen. I mean, could have said the same thing about last week against Denver too. But I'm curious where you're leaning in this one in such an even matchup. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like you to go with the Ravens, but the Bills are at home, and yeah, I mean, you got two of the MVP candidates.
Yeah, I'll take it from here. And just want to clarify, we got the Ravens at +1.5. They're the team that's favored. The Ravens are -1.5 in the slight edge here, like Sliwa was saying. And that all goes to them being just the more complete team. I think you could make an argument that Josh Allen can be the MVP over Lamar Jackson. Not if you look at the stats, but when you take the whole body of work of who's the better team here, I don't think it's any doubt that the Ravens are a more talented roster top to bottom than the Bills. Yet the Bills were able to reach higher heights than the Ravens. I think a lot of that is attributed to Josh Allen and exactly the points that you made, Slee, with that. When the defense takes absolutely everything away from him, he's still able to make plays and make everyone scratch their head and throw their arms up in the air. You can say the same thing about Lamar Jackson. It's just that he's got a little bit better supporting cast, and I think that's part of the argument for the MVP for Josh Allen. So in my mind, just taking a step away from the game and looking at the MVP, which I'm sure everyone's arguing mentally, I think the winner of this game, the quarterback, gets the MVP. I know it's not supposed to work that way. I think that's what's going to happen. Um, but going into the game, it is so hard to pick because Josh Allen, I think, is actually a bigger X factor than Lamar Jackson in this game, which is crazy to say because Lamar Jackson's so great, but it's purely because Josh Allen can hit 70-yard passes downfield and put that ball on a dime right into the receiver's hands, whereas Lamar Jackson can't do that. And almost more importantly, their offense isn't asked to do that. They don't hit the home run play through the passing game. Now they get it just about more than anyone except maybe the Bills in the run game. But if and when potentially the Bills were to get down this game and get down late, I am scared in a scenario where the Ravens are passing the ball on first, second, and third down, where I'm not saying that for the Bills. Like that is where the Ravens end up losing in the postseason every year. They can beat any team in a single game, but to go 3 or 4 straight games where you have to play perfect football and not get yourself in a situation where Lamar Jackson is throwing the ball outside the hash marks on first, second, and third down is difficult, especially when you're playing really good playoff teams. Now, I will say Lamar Jackson has legitimately never looked better as a passer inside the six, outside the six, down the field. By every metric and eyeball test, Lamar Jackson is the best he's ever been in his career. And that definitely gives me confidence when picking the Ravens. I'm going back and forth because I think it is close, but at the end of the day, I'm going to pick the Ravens because I think the Bills are so much built upon the back of Josh Allen that it may cost them. And more importantly, we talk about PFF and being somewhat infallible. I don't think the Ravens PFF defensive grade gives them enough credit for the steps that they took from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. These guys in the first half of the year were a bottom half PFF defensive team, and they sit top 10 today. I think they've made so much strides defensively. Again, with rookie defensive coordinator who's a former linebacker coach and former Raven player, Zach Orr. Took him a little bit to figure it out and that unit to figure it out. But they have so many great players on the defense side of the football that it's hard for them not to click, and it's taken them just the right amount of time to truly get it all together. And the second thing is, I think these offenses, in terms of how dangerous and explosive they can be from a running back quarterback combination perspective, is pretty much equal. But the difference is that the Ravens have the second best run defense in the NFL, and the Bills have the sixth worst. And if there's going to be something that comes into play, it's going to be in the fourth quarter in a close game where Derrick Henry just keeps running the ball for his 20th plus carry right at your linebackers and really starts to wear them down. That can make a difference too. So there's a lot of ways this game can play out, and without a doubt, either of these teams can win the game, and you're not wrong in believing that either one can. I think there's a significant edge to the Ravens given their greater depth of talent on both sides of the football. And I think a huge thing here for the Ravens is Zay Flowers. He's probably not going to be fully healthy, but he's got to play, and that is going to be huge for them. I think between Mark Andrews, who's gotten healthier throughout the season, and Isaiah Likely at tight end who stepped up, that's really dangerous. Rashad Bateman as the X receiver has looked really solid. What they need is their yards after the catch, quick throw, run, and make some big plays at open field. Zay Flower to really round out this offense. If they can get that, I think it's going to be really hard for the Bills to stop this Ravens team.
Yeah, I mean,
Ravens. So just to clarify, sorry to cut you off, because I just talked a lot and said a little. Some would say I'm on the Ravens spread and the over.
yeah. Now I like the over. I do think it will end up going over. I think so. I mean, I don't want to contradict myself, but I do probably lean with the over, and I do think that's going to be more on the Bills side. Like you mentioned how good this Ravens defense has been in the second half. I think if we get a low scoring game, it's not going to bode very well for the Bills. But I don't think that's what's going to happen in this game, uh, in this one. But you did mention my main worry, because I'm on the Bills, is the Ravens having the lead late, even if it's a 3 point lead and just running the clock out, like running it down your throat, like we've seen the Lions do so often this season. But I mean, the Ravens do it too with Derrick Henry. So that's my main worry. But like I said, like I feel you just gotta throw stats out the window when it comes to the Bills, especially this season. I mean, don't have all the names they've had in the past on defense, and I mean we've seen the slight progression on defense, but at the same time, like the stats haven't exactly matched the play. Like I mean, they've been a great team. They're the number 2 overall seed, right behind the Chiefs. Had the Chiefs not only lost 2 games the whole season. So yeah, I mean, I just feel like the way the Bills are playing right now, and I mean, Josh Allen's been saying it in every game, but it's just free flowing football. Like it's like he has so many different options between James Cook, Coleman, just Amari Cooper, like the entire wide receiver room. Like there's no one guy you have to force feed. There's no guy that you could key in defensively.
And that's the hardest part about this offense. You can guard everyone perfectly too. Josh Allen's going to make the perfect throw, and that's what's so difficult. And that's what scares me. Someone taking the Ravens is that I know Josh Allen can beat anyone single handedly.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to always go back to the quarterback, but I do think, like you even mentioned it, like just the slight worry, like yes, Lamar's had his best season ever, but I mean, we've seen it in the playoffs. Like, I mean, if throwing the ball late, you're going to just naturally trust.
Seen it too many times.
Exactly, we've just seen it at this point. Josh Allen, though, 6-2 in his career at home. One of those losses to the Chiefs, the other, I believe, to the Bengals. But on the flip side, Lamar Jackson, we've talked a lot about how his postseason struggles, but this is such a good regular season team that he barely plays on the road in the postseason. He's only had 2 road starts in his entire postseason career. We talk about his struggles; those struggles are at home. He's 1-1. He's 1-1 on the road in his postseason career. His last postseason game on the road was 4 years ago.
Jeez.
Like he does not have much road experience. Like we talk about this Buffalo stadium, especially at home in the playoffs. Like this is probably going to be the toughest atmosphere Lamar's ever gone up against.
A really good point.
He does not play. He's played 2 road playoff games in his entire career, and the last was in the 2020 season, being like early 2021 when that game was. So 4 years ago was his last road playoff game. I mean, I got to go with Josh Allen, 6-2 at home versus Lamar, who's just 1-1 on the road, hasn't really faced these atmospheres that much. I mean, with all of his experience that he has, we haven't seen it much. So yeah, I think that plays a little bit more into it. And
Yeah, I think that's a fair argument, and that's something that certainly scares the hell out of me as someone taking the Ravens, someone with Ravens futures. If I'm going to look more statistically versus anecdotally, what I like about the Ravens this season compared to the Bills is I think they're much more battle tested. You look at the strength of schedule, and I mentioned, Lamar or Josh Allen's been able to get a better record and achieve higher heights despite a worse team. The counter argument to that would directly be, hey, the Bills had a much weaker strength of schedule than the Ravens. And I think that's a fair argument. And that's something that, gives me a little bit more confidence when I'm looking at the Ravens here. But something else that was very telling was looking at the scoring margin this year. And the Ravens and Lamar Jackson are such a regular season team. But the scoring margin versus playoff teams this season, Buffalo, their margin of victory in aggregate when they played playoff teams was -15. They won a lot of games and they beat the Lions, but when they played playoff teams, they ended up getting outscored this season. When the Ravens played playoff teams, their margin of victory was +112. +112. Guess how much the Lions' margin of victory was against playoff teams? +36. Night and day between first and second there. So that gives me a lot of confidence. This Ravens team, they had an incredibly tough schedule. They've been battle tested. They lost some games against some good playoff teams, but at the end of the day, they ended up dominating in aggregate against playoff teams. So that gives me confidence. And the other thing is with this Bills team, they're not used to playing in many tight games, especially from behind. So if they do get down, especially they get down late, this run defense isn't being asked to be the first line of defense when the Bills are trying to hold on to a win. It's the passing defense that's playing bend, don't break. So the sequencing of this game is going to be huge because it's twofold. The Bills get up. That's good. One, because get the lead on their secondary, which is a strength of this defense. And two, they force Lamar Jackson into a little bit more passing mode, which is the Ravens' weak spot on offense. But if the Ravens get up, it's going to really play in their favor, being able to run the ball first, second, and third down if they want to, in which we've seen just much like the Eagles did this Sunday against the Packers, just really rely on that run game against a subpar Bills run defense. So whoever gets out to the lead and maintains this lead early is going to have a huge advantage in this game.
that's my biggest worry.
It's gonna be really fun.
I mean, yeah, the early lead always matters, but especially when you have such a ground game advantage for the
There's
Ravens.
two polarizing offenses in terms of technique and play style. One would love to run the ball every play, and one would love to just put the ball in Josh Allen's hands and let him do something every
Yeah,
play. And
no,
more importantly, rely on their pass defense rather than the run defense here, which is
yeah,
really the weakest spot of any core group of players in this Bills team is by far and away their run game. You can maybe argue their wide receiver room, but because the production is so high, given Josh Allen's talent, then that isn't it's got too much of a correlation with Josh Allen's skill, whereas the
yeah.
run defense has nothing else really helping them out besides the sheer fact that they're always playing up 14.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a big worry. Like you said, yeah, they haven't really had to defend against the run that often all season, and then going up against arguably the toughest unit in the league.
But I'll tell you what,
You
as someone with Ravens bets, I am much more afraid of the Bills beating the Ravens than the Chiefs beating the Ravens.
No,
It's
I agree. I think
something about
either
Josh
one of
Allen.
these teams, probably the Ravens even have a better chance. But yeah, either one of these teams beat the. I just feel like they
I agree.
have
I
a
think
little more
either one of these
going.
teams beat the Chiefs. I think the Ravens have the better chance than the Bills. I think this is playing for the AFC pennant spot, if you will, to represent these guys in the Super Bowl. I sure
Yeah.
hope so. I think most of the people outside of Kansas City hope so too.
Yeah. Last thing I will say though, this spread indicates pretty much an even game. Like we expect it to be close. Um, Not really expecting one team to win by double digits. Just how shaky, and he hasn't been as much lately, but Justin Tucker, especially the first half of
Oh
the season,
God.
how shaky. He's not the same. I mean, they've adjusted on some of their attempts. I mean, the distance that they're taking those field goals from. But I mean, as a previous fantasy owner of Tucker this year, I mean, I just I was saying it earlier in the year because it always seems to happen with these teams, like, and the Bears too, still scarred by it. But like, such a great team, like in a game this close, like you, like that could be the reason you lose. Um, and yeah, I mean, give me. I mean, is it still Bass or who does Buffalo have?
I want to say it's Bass, and he's been good. I mean, it's hard to compare him versus Justin Tucker because I don't know the stats off the top of my head.
Yeah, no,
It just
I don't have any
anecdotally,
specific
Tucker looks
stats.
tough because he's been so. I mean, there's no one actually, no one that really has been that much worse than Justin Tucker this year in fantasy in terms of, or not in fantasy, in terms of kicking, in terms of field goal percentage. But he's definitely been better as of late, and that's a positive sign for what you want going
Yeah,
into it. Bass has been no slouch either. That's
yeah.
for sure.
I just think yeah, when you're saying the game's basically even, like, and one of the guys kicking the
That
ball at
matters.
least several times, yeah, I like that. That could be the difference.
I'll tell you what, though. I'm looking at Tyler Bass. His field goal percentage, 29th in the league this year. His extra point percentage, you want to talk about minutia that could
Is he
decide the
last?
game. 36th in the NFL in terms of extra point percentage. Let me see what
Hey,
JT's is.
Buffalo's tough. Buffalo's a tough place to kick, man.
Well, yeah, no, hey, some of that is certainly external factors, but I'm intrigued. Let me pull up Justin Tucker. This is some next level analysis that we haven't done
It's probably
before.
better than the stats
You
in
would
my
have
last
to think,
game.
but he's had a tough year. Justin Tucker, field goal percentage, 36th. So he is worse. Like I said, it's hard to be worse than Justin Tucker this year. He's making field goals at a 73% rate. He, before
Yeah,
this season, had the career
he
record
should have
for field goal
retired.
percentage, like
He should have just
92%.
retired at top.
So I'm
And
intrigued
he
to
wants
see,
that
is
ring
it
now.
did
I
he
know.
just go through the yips, or is he truly worse? His extra point percentage, 22nd in the league, but I think that Tyler Bass missing about 400 basis points more than him could show up. I want to see what JT's been at lately. No one's probably listening to this anyways, but I'm so intrigued. What's been going on as of late? Um, his field goal percentage has been much better since last time he played in Pittsburgh, which is probably one of the toughest places to play. Well, now I'm looking at more games versus Philly at home. Nah, he's like, no. I'm not even, I can't even go on a limb and say he's been much better. He has games where he will miss two field goals a couple times this year, and that's just you can't have that in the playoffs. You
That's what
can
I'm saying.
maybe miss
That,
one. You
like, this
need him to
game's gonna
lock
be
in.
close. Like,
Like that's
you have a game like that, like you're gonna lose.
that has always been a strength of this team, knowing that hey, like we're gonna win the special teams game. And
Tyler Bass might miss one, but Tucker might miss like two or three.
oh man, it's gonna be fun. I'm still taking the Ravens. I swear to God, JT, I need you here.
Yeah, I
36
got you
months.
sweating now.
He's gonna have like a 63 yarder for the win. It's gonna be epic.
Yeah, wind's blowing out. All
I hope so. All right, we'll wrap up this
right.
AFC video. We will get back to you guys tomorrow with the NFC picks. They will be even better and more analytical than this week. I promise. If you are still watching this video, give yourself a pat in the back and let us know in the comment section. You earned it. You earned some praise. Talk to you guys next week.